Evening, everybody. It's producer Scott here. I don't know if anybody's actually going to watch this or not, but I figured with it being the penultimate college football playoff rankings tonight, that I would jump on here and at least give uh, my standpoint of what it means for our Indiana teams and, of course, my team, Ohio State. And also, I want to mention also the fact that the greatest day in my maybe the last 2 years of my Purdue football fandom happened yesterday, and Ryan Walters got canned. So, I don't have any theatrics for everybody tonight. It's just kinda me talking, and whoever tunes in will tune in. Um, so I'll share it on the screen here real quick what the rankings were, just in case anybody, didn't see it. And if you're listening audio only, it's Oregon's number 1, which makes sense because they've been number 1 all year, then Texas, then Penn State, then Notre Dame, then, Georgia, Ohio State 6, Tennessee 7, SMU 8, Indiana 9, 10's Boise State, 11's Alabama, and 12 is Miami. Um, so I think right now, I think it's a lot of what we thought it was gonna be, right? That Ohio State with their loss to the blue and yellow team that I don't that I don't, refer to by name. Um, oh, and that's just the rankings too. I forgot the actual seedings here are on a different page. So let me pull that up real fast. But it's kind of what we expected, right? Oregon was going to stand pat. Nobody's ahead of Oregon because they're undefeated. Texas moves up. Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia. I was curious to see how far Ohio State would fall, and I think they're in a good spot at sixth, just with them losing to a admittedly a bad team and dropping, but they still do have the wins against top 10 teams in Indiana at the time and Penn State, who is looking better and better. Now, when you have two of the top three are in the Big Ten and are about to play each other this weekend, that that bodes well for Ohio State's standing at least. And then Notre Dame, I think, is kind of where people thought they would be, I guess, to a degree. Um, And so I think you're gonna have I don't know, because Arizona State, I think if they win their conference, they're obviously in. So I one of the tech subscriptions that I subscribe to that gets college football news to me, they have so Oregon's 1, Texas is 2, SMU would be the 3 seed, Boise would be the 4 seed potentially, Penn State, um, Penn State would play as the 5 seed, assuming they lose to Oregon, which I think might be a pretty safe bet. I wouldn't nothing's impossible nowadays, right? But we've all seen James Franklin in big games kind of turtle, but that's also against Ohio State and the Wolverines. So I don't know how he would game play in a game against Oregon. So that's I don't know. Maybe they could throw a wild card in it, but I think regardless, if Oregon loses, they're number 5. If Oregon wins, they're still number 1. And so this says the hypothetical is 5 Penn State would host 12 Arizona State, 6 Notre Dame would host 11 Alabama, which I think would be everything everybody wants. And I think Heck and me and my dad had talked about the potential for Indiana coming and playing in South Bend. And I don't know if anybody really wants to see that. I think it'd be interesting, but I always make the joke that they're the same fans, and they are, but I don't think that that's necessarily the matchup that people wanna see on TV. So I think Alabama going to Notre Dame would be, uh, the TV executive's wet dream. And then the other would be 7 Georgia hosting 10 Indiana, and then 8 Ohio State hosting 9 Tennessee. That's if the favorites win their conference championships, which is a huge if. It's all kinds of theoreticals if all the if Clemson wins, Saturday, then who the heck knows? But I think we have, excuse me, I think we have the precedent set, especially for like, I know there was a lot of debate on um, whether Ohio State or Tennessee would be ranked higher, and we have our answer because neither of those two teams play each other, or they don't play each other this weekend. Obviously, they don't play at all this weekend. Excuse me. So I don't see any world where those two would flip just randomly because neither of them play. So Ohio State's going to get a home game, and I think it would be electric for Tennessee to go to Columbus. Now, the people that are watching this, they don't care about, you guys don't care about Ohio State football. I do, but I like college football, period. But you're tuning in, one, because you have nothing better to do on a Tuesday night at 8:21 Central and 9:21 Eastern. So Notre Dame's fourth. So what exactly does that mean? Well, Oregon and Penn State can't be in the top four. So I think like my college football news text had said, Notre Dame's probably the sixth, which is fine. They're going to play Alabama. I think Notre Dame's defense is good enough to hold Jalen Milroe, because I think they're going to be Alabama's going to be especially one dimensional if they come to South Bend in middle to late December. I think it's going to be very cold in South Bend, like it always is in December. And so Oklahoma made Alabama look childish in that game a couple weeks ago, and they won by 21 points. And I think Notre Dame's defense is a million times better than Oklahoma's. So I think Notre Dame with a home game in December against an SEC team, they should win. But then again, they should have beaten Northern Illinois at the beginning of the year. And I'm sure Notre Dame people are sick of hearing about Northern Illinois, but it still happened. And I think Marcus Freeman has a great opportunity to exercise some demons. And just with Notre Dame as a program in general, because they haven't really had any playoff success or any BCS success. Because when did Notre Dame last make the playoff? I need to Google that. Notre Dame CFP history. I don't know it off the top of my head. They made it in. Let's see. Notre Dame. They made it in 2021. Oh, was that the COVID year? It was the COVID year. Yeah, the last time Notre Dame was in the playoffs, they played Alabama, and Alabama beat them 31-14. And I think Marcus Freeman has a great chance to redeem himself. Here, what Q say? Weather side, how did the Irish stack up against the trenches versus Bama? Last couple times Notre Dame versus SEC on January 1 in the playoffs, they got bullied. I think the trenches may be equated in this, because I don't know if you can put the weather aside. Can you? Because I don't know how often do those guys, how many Northern high school players does Alabama have? How many of them have ever been north of the Mason-Dixon line? So I don't know if you can take weather out of it. But I think the fact, I don't really know any of Alabama's trench players. Because the only one I really knew was J.C. Latham a couple years ago on the offensive line, because Ohio State tried to recruit him. I think they were number 2 in his recruitment. But he's gone. He's in the NFL now. And I don't know. I think Notre Dame holds up against him really well, because I think this is a team that is solely within Marcus Freeman's recruiting pedigree and his it's his team now. There's nothing left of Brian Kelly, really. So I think they would hold up really well, and I think the environment that Notre Dame is going to bring fan wise in the stadium is going to be nuts. for all these teams that would theoretically host a playoff game. So it would be what Penn State and Arizona State is going to be nuts. I couldn't imagine. Could you imagine a playoff game at Arizona State though, with that place being a party school already as it is? That place would be nuts. But Penn State is a crazy environment regardless. Notre Dame's going to be nuts. Georgia's going to be nuts, and Ohio State's going to be nuts. So I think the home field advantage is a huge factor in all of it. So I think with Notre Dame's um, and I think with Notre Dame's skill and the way they run the ball, why couldn't they do it? Because I don't think. Let me look. Alabama total defense ranking. Here, let me share my screen while I'm doing all this too, just so we can do it all together. Defensive statistics. Yeah. Everybody hates my ad blocker. Yeah, Alabama's kind of a ways down there in total defense. They're below Bowling Green, and Notre Dame is where'd they go? I thought I just saw them. They're like what, eighth, if I can count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. I was close. Oops, wrong tab. There we go. Yeah. So Notre Dame's right here. They're good. And Alabama's down here. So yards per game, they give up some stuff. How are they in rushing yards per game? They are 139.8 rushing yards per game, and they've given up 1,600 and some rush yards all year. Let's see what offense looks like. And Notre Dame rushes for 224.8 yards per game. Yeah, absolutely. It should be a whiteout for Penn State and Arizona State. I think it probably will be. Maybe not because I think they really only do one whiteout per year just for the sake of TV. But yeah, they definitely should. And I think Beaver Stadium, they that needs to be the night game because I think Notre Dame will get the 3:30 slot, whichever day that would be. I think they play on the. Let me look that up. I think it's the 19th and the 20th. It's either the 19th and the 20th or the 20th and the 21st. But I think whoever it's the 20th and the 21st. Let me share this tab. Yeah. So first round Friday. Honestly, I think I would put if I were the TV execs, I might put the Penn State game Friday at 8 because I think that would be nuts. Whiteout at night this time, the noon version versus Illinois. Yeah. The whiteout game, if it's a day game, is stupid. So if I were the TV execs, I would put that Penn State game 8 o'clock Friday, and then probably have Notre Dame play either the 4 or the 8 o'clock game on Saturday. If the TV people make Ohio State play another noon game, I think there might be a riot in Columbus because Ohio State played the last 6 regular season games all at noon, and I think all but one of them were on Fox for big noon kickoff. So if you have what I say the ranking or the matchups were, yeah, I would put Penn State, Arizona State Friday night. I'd put Georgia, Indiana, the noon game. And then I would put Notre Dame, Alabama as the 4 o'clock on Saturday and Ohio State, Tennessee, the night game. I think that would probably be, I don't know, just because I think Penn State night game standalone, that would be wild. Now, here's the other thing. Georgia with a hypothetical against Indiana. And again, this hypothetical is if everything kind of goes chalk Saturday. If if it doesn't go chalk Saturday, then I may have to do another one of these lives But I don't know. Anybody else besides Q actually watching this? I see some eyeballs. Oh, there we go. Paul, Notre Dame should not continue to be rewarded for not having the gonads to join a conference. I I don't disagree. I say on the show all the time that Notre Dame needs to swallow their pride and join the Big Ten because NBC already has the TV rights to the Big Ten, so it wouldn't really be anything different. Notre Dame would always be on NBC anyway, and it's not like you anybody would be burying Notre Dame games on the Big Ten network. Like they would always be on network TV, be it CBS, Fox, or NBC. And so I don't disagree at all with you, Paul. Um, but I think Notre Dame has gotten better as the season goes on. And I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I really can't stand Notre Dame. I love Marcus Freeman because he went to Ohio State. Um, but I have no love lost for for Notre Dame. Especially I grew up around there during the Charlie Weiss era. And I couldn't stand Charlie Weiss. Um, but like I said, I love Marcus Freeman, and at some point, I kind of would like to see them succeed, just so people shut up. But yeah, I think Notre Dame needs to. Well, and I think here's the counter argument. I guess they are kind of getting punished for not joining a conference because they're never going to be higher than 5. Like the highest they can ever play for is the 5th seed in the playoffs. So is that punishment enough? I don't know. Um, Maybe at a certain point, and I think we talked about this yesterday evening too. At a certain point, somebody in the athletic department has to understand that a 2-loss Notre Dame is probably never going to get in the playoffs, just because they don't even have the option of playing in a conference title game. I think conference championship games should go away entirely because I think they're just a money grab at this point, and they need to reseed the playoffs. Now, this is the first year of the 12-team playoffs too, so it's not going to be perfect. Excuse me. It's not gonna be perfect seating wise, and I think they hopefully the committee people um, learn from it to a degree, because I think now if Ohio State had handled business this past weekend, I think there's a world where you would have had 3 of the top 4 as Big Ten teams between Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State, and then sprinkle in Texas as the other team in there. Do I think it's fair to those teams if they are truly the best 4 teams in the country, why they should have to play one another in the second round instead of in the Final 4? Because, I mean, think about the NCAA tournament in basketball. If Purdue's a 1 seed and Illinois, is a 1 seed too, or if Purdue and Illinois are 1 and 2 in the AP poll, why should they have to, be on the same side of the bracket just because they're in the same conference? I think it's silly. And I think the SEC is a good example of that too. If Georgia only had 1 loss and they were getting ready to play Texas here and on Saturday, and the conference championship means 2 losses, but is it really 2 losses when you played well enough all year to earn the right to play in an extra game? Is that worthy of punishing the other teams? I don't know. So yes, Notre Dame 2 things can be true. Notre Dame needs to join a conference, and conference championship games should go by the wayside because I think you don't really need them anymore. You can determine a winner, at least for the the mega conglomerate conferences of the SEC and the Big Ten. I don't know really what the ACC and the Big 12 want to do nowadays, but they're kind of an afterthought, aren't they? I don't know what. Anybody else have any other thoughts? Thanks, Q. Um, But I think the other hypothetical that I haven't really talked about yet, Indiana going to Georgia. Do I see this going well? No, because even though Carson Beck has had his moments of absolute, um, I want to be nice because this isn't my podcast to be swearing on, but Carson Beck has had his moments where you if you're Kirby Smart, you just want to pull your hair out. What are you doing? Why are you throwing five interceptions or whatever? To I think what did Carson Beck had? I think he had 6 picks in 3 games at one point, and I think he's played better. But, like, Georgia needed 8 overtimes to beat Georgia Tech. So, do I give Indiana a chance? Sure. Indiana's been really good, and, like, they shot themselves in the foot a bunch at Ohio State, but I also think Ohio State's good despite what happened this weekend. I think Ohio State's good, and what a good teams do, they kinda force their opponents to make mistakes. So, and this isn't the Georgia teams with, um, Nakobe Dean and Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey and Stetson Bennett and, did Wi did Will Anderson go to Alabama or Georgia? I think he went to Georgia, right? Am I crazy? Why can I not remember? I'm looking it up right now. No, he went to Alabama, sorry. Will Anderson went to Alabama. But, like, the Georgia teams have passed where, like, you couldn't score against them. Like, I think there's room for Georgia to be taken down. I don't see why not. Call me a Big Ten homer because I am. Um, but I think Indiana's got a chance. Their offense is good enough, and like I said, I don't think this Georgia defense is world beaters. I mean, Indiana scored against Ohio State, sorta. They scored at the end when Ohio State had kind of given up, but that first drive in Columbus looked pretty good, and then they got it rolling again against Purdue, which I saw a power ranking out today that Purdue was the second worst FBS team behind Kent State, which made me feel real proud as a you can tell as a two-time Purdue alum up there. God, Purdue football. I could rant for an hour on Purdue football, but I don't have all night. I got to get up in the morning and go do my day job. But yeah, I don't see why Indiana doesn't have a chance. Um, and I think that kind of will hold steady. Indiana's either going to play Georgia or Texas. What's up, Nick? I don't get why people think Notre Dame had some super soft schedule when they scheduled Texas A&M, Miami, Florida State, Carolina, Louisville, and Georgia Tech this year. Any thoughts? Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Um, I think A&M at the beginning of the year maybe wasn't as now going to Kyle Field is insanely difficult anyway. But I don't think A&M at the beginning of the year was nearly the team that they were at the end of the year because they switched quarterbacks and their offense got better even though they only scored. Well, their offense didn't score against Texas. They got a pick six. Um, did Notre Dame play Miami? Notre Dame didn't play Miami. Um, yeah, Notre Dame didn't play Miami. Um, I think Notre Dame kind of fell victim to a really bad ACC section of their schedule that they normally play. Like, I think Notre Dame versus Clemson this year would have been pretty good. Notre Dame versus Louisville was a good game, and I think they kind of handled their business, but Louisville scored on them. So I think that's the only. Oh, here, sorry. What'd you say, Nick? No, they scheduled Miami, but Miami backed out. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure though. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to. Granted, I don't follow Notre Dame football closely, just based off of what these guys on Monday afternoons say and what we get from the Notre Dame beat people that we talk to, but not Miami, Florida. Miami, Ohio. Didn't they win the MAC? Or are they like number one in the MAC? Need to replace them with Army, possibly. Yeah, could be. Well, yeah, Notre Dame plays Navy every year. I don't know if they play Army every year. I'd have to check that too. But I mean, I'm not sitting here saying Notre Dame played an incredibly soft schedule. I think it's just with them having the freedom to pretty much schedule whoever they want because I don't know exactly their contract deal with the ACC if they actually have to schedule certain amount of ACC teams every year in football, given that they're in the ACC for basketball. I don't think that has anything to do with it, but Yeah, I think they just kind of fell victim to that section of the ACC being really, really bad. I mean, Florida State was ranked in the top 10 and then they won one game all year. So that's not Notre Dame's fault. Um, what's Florida State's coach's name? Did he get fired? No, Gus Malzahn left UCF as a head coach to go be the offensive coordinator of Florida State, which I thought was crazy. God, I know I'm really bad tonight. Football coach Mike Norvell. I I pulled the name out before the Google search popped up, so I pulled it out of there. But yeah, I don't think yeah F's F's in the chat, everybody. Um, yeah, like I think if Notre Dame had played Clemson this year, I think that would have been a lot better barometer for really where Notre Dame is. But at the same time, since they lost to Northern Illinois, they've beaten the crap out of everybody. So I'm not here to discount Notre Dame's total body of work because I made the comparison a couple weeks ago with this Notre Dame team to 2014 Ohio State team, where you lose a game early in the year where you shouldn't, and then you kind of just handle your business the rest of the year, find a way to squeak into the playoffs, and anything's possible after that, especially because Notre Dame's going to get a home game, and then the rest of the games are neutral site. So let's see, um, what else did Q say? Indiana would have nothing to lose vibe, a la the team up north versus Ohio State. Teams like that can be very annoying in tournaments. Yeah, and I think that's kind of to bring it back to Purdue basketball. Um, that's kind of what you see with the 16 seeds, like Fairleigh Dickinson, and before that with UMBC beating Virginia in 2018. Like, hey, we got nothing to lose. We don't really have any pressure on us. There's nothing quite like a team with nothing to lose, right? So yeah, why? I don't think anybody. I think all of the talking heads on in college football media might think it's a sexy pick to pick Indiana against Georgia, but I think all the SEC homers are going to say, "Oh, Georgia's going to win by 3 touchdowns." I'm not so sure. I could be convinced otherwise, maybe. And I guess if anybody wants to clip this, um, after Indiana gets their doors blown off by Georgia, then go for it and call me an idiot. Wouldn't be the worst thing I've even been called today. So whatever. But don't sleep on Indiana. Not at all. I think they've got as good a chance to go on the road and win a game as anybody. I mean, does anybody think Arizona State's going to go into Happy Valley and beat Penn State in front of 110 people wearing white at night? Hopefully, no. Well, the hopefully thing is for the night part of the whole equation. I don't really care about Penn State either. Notre Dame versus Miami set to resume in 2025. Okay. Which I think that'll be interesting to see what Miami looks like when Cam Ward's gone. And I'm kind of curious if the ACC falls apart, does SMU get left out, Clemson's in, and then Miami kind of sneaks in the back door, or what? I think should Alabama have should Alabama get in this? Because right now my hypothetical has them at as the 10 seed because they're ranked. What are they ranked? This freaking website. Alabama's 11th in the poll itself, and Miami's 12th. Now, obviously, the seeding versus the what the actual poll is obviously different. But should Alabama get in with 3 losses, and 2 of them are to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, who are not good, but they beat Georgia? Also, for all the people that I've done a lot more research into this and trying to contextualize Ohio State losing to a bad Wolverine team. Kirby Smart is 1-6 against Alabama. Just think about that for a second. Kirby Smart is 1-6 against Alabama. Do you think anybody in Athens, Georgia, seriously wants Kirby Smart gone? I highly doubt it. So I think people can be angry at the game plan that Ohio State had against their rivals. I'm right there with you because I think the game plan was awful because Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are really good, but don't quite hop on the fire Ryan Day train yet because I don't think it's a good idea, and B, it's really expensive because these athletic departments have a lot of money tied up going into other places now with NIL and now revenue sharing starting next year. Like it's going to be nuts. College football coaches are going to have incredibly long leashes now because of these buyouts. So I don't know. Anybody else got any thoughts? So it's not just me here talking to myself. Maybe Kirby Smart didn't want to play Oregon 3 times in 1 year. Yeah, yeah. I Dan Lanning has carved himself out of quite the niche. Um, yeah. Does anybody want to play Oregon 3 times a year? That would be the crazy thing. Is I keep thinking about it. If Ohio State had handled their business, there's a chance where Ohio State and Oregon could have played on October 12th, then they could turn around and play on December 7th, then they could turn around and play on like New Year's. So I mean, it really would be like the NFL. Let's see. Days buyout is close to 40 million. Yep. Who wants the Purdue job? Hey, C Hutch, I mean, there's truth to every joke, right? So even if you were teasing, I wouldn't want to play Oregon 3 times a year. And I know Kirby, yeah, Kirby a lot of times would have to play Alabama twice a year. God, I still can't believe Saban benched Jalen Hurts in the 2017 national title game, and then Tua Tagovailoa comes in and throws a Hail Mary to Devontae Smith, and they beat Georgia in overtime. That still amazes me. I was sitting in a hotel room in Burlington, Iowa, with my jaw on the floor, like, I cannot believe this. Farewell to Saban. Now he's just hanging out and trying to tolerate Pat McAfee. Oh, did my wife just come home? Did I hear my wife pull up in my driveway? No, she's at work. Why did I think I heard my car lock? Anyway, let's see. Q, who wants the Purdue job? Um, here's a name that I've heard. Um, let me find it. I know his I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's yeah, let me find it again. Let me make sure I'm thinking the right guy. Um, hang on. There's God, who is it? It was I thought it was Holloman Wiggins, the wide receivers coach at Alabama, because I thought he had um let me make sure I'm thinking it's the right guy. No, it's a different guy. Um, somebody on Alabama's staff is from Fort Wayne that went to Purdue, and I think he would be probably a good, um, potentially a good fit. Now, actually wanting the Purdue job is another thing. I think there's a lot of people that would be good for it. Another name that I've heard trotted out is Eddie George, who is currently an FCS coach who has gotten better in every year that he's led that program at Tennessee State. Um, I think it'd be an interesting hire. He's a Big Ten guy. Eddie George is kind of the one name that I would think for Ohio State if they ever got rid of Ryan Day and couldn't get Mike Vrabel back. Because Eddie George is currently a head coach in a lower level of college, and he's been a winner even in a short tenure. But I don't know. I think Eddie George is a good name. The current Georgia D coordinator is a sexy name for all these other jobs, but as far as who would actually want the job at Purdue, I have no idea. um, let's see, Nick. Who do you predict wins the national championship? I don't know if I trust Ohio State right now after what I just watched on Saturday. Um, because if they had actually gone and handled business Saturday, I would not even just as a fan, I would have said Ohio State because I think between the offense being so deadly efficient and the defense being good, um, I would have said Ohio State. I don't know if I believe it right now. Even though they still are third in the betting odds to win it, I think behind Oregon and Georgia. I think right now, I think Oregon, and I know that's kind of an easy, it's kind of an easy pick. But as the one seed, they would get. Um, let me find it again. They would get their bye, and then they would get the lowest ranked team left. So that would, I mean, I guess it would be in round two. They would potentially play Ohio State. So that those would be my two teams yet there. Um, so I don't know. I think Oregon, but again, without actually seeing the official bracket posted, I would say Oregon. But maybe when the official bracket is out and we have definitive matchups, like this is who's going to play here, this is who's going to play, these are the potential matchups for winners and blah blah blah. But without seeing an actual bracket, yeah, probably Oregon. Let's see. Crazy question time. Possibly of getting Mike Allstott from his high school gig in Florida better than skimming none. Mike Allstott. Oh, maybe. Um, man, yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting. Yeah, because he's um how old is Mike Allstott? He is 50. Okay. I mean, yeah, Mike Allstott's only 50. Why did I think he was so much older? Um, yeah, Mike Allstott would be an interesting one. I mean, Tom Allen was a high school coach. Um, before he had other jobs before he went to Indiana, obviously, but why not? I've heard somebody said Drew Brees. I'm like, what does Drew Brees coach besides his son's Pop Warner team? Drew Brees is the head coach at Purdue. You're right. That'd be like taking Robbie Hummel off of ESPN and the Big Ten Network and having him replace Matt Painter. Let's see. Yeah, Eddie George is doing well at Tennessee State. I think they're 9-3 this year, and he's gotten better in the 3 years that he's been there. So, I mean, that's all that you really want, right? Is just to see improvement. And I mean, I have no reason to believe that Eddie George would be any worse of a hire than some of these other people have been. So I don't know. It's it's a possibility, and I love Eddie George. Eddie George, obviously he played for John Cooper back in the '90s, which doesn't really bode well for rivalry games for those teams at Ohio State. But I mean, I love Eddie George. I think he's great. um, Anybody else have any takes? Sound off in the chat, what have you. Um, does anybody want to see? Um, does anybody want to subject themselves to more me on this channel? Because if you want to, I can. If you don't want to, I won't. I will just sit here in my office at home with my camera off and let Hack and my dad do their thing on Monday afternoons or Monday evenings. But if anybody actually wants to see more of me on here, I will. Just as the resident historian, I guess, for this. And I am really excited for college basketball to get more into the swing. I'm still watching it. I'm not completely ignoring it right now, like I know a lot of people do up until the middle of January. But I mean, the middle of January when college football is over is like you're halfway through the college basketball season. You've missed all the good stuff because I think like Flory Badunga from Kokomo, that's at Kansas, is playing a lot. I think he's played really well. And like Hunter Dickinson, like I said the other day, needs to go find a job selling insurance and get the heck out of college basketball because he's like mean, I'm 29. I feel like Hunter Dickinson's been in college basketball since I've been a child, seems like. But anyway, if nobody else has anything to add or any opinions or just want to call me a moron, then I'm gonna sign off of here and go finish folding laundry and get ready to go in the morning. So for those of you that join me, thanks. And I will be back right here Monday for your weekly coach's corner with Heck and King, and maybe a little bit more me. I don't know. But I'm gonna get off of here here in a second if nobody else has anything to say. So here's your chance. Thanks, Nick. Talk to you guys later.